Unser nächster Gast ist Nimmo Bassey. Nimmo Bassey ist im Vorstand der Umweltorganisation.
Our guest is Nimmo Bassey. He's currently chair of the Board of Environmental Rights Action in Nigeria and works for the Oil Watch Network. From 2010 to 2012, he was chair of Friends of the Earth International. He's the author of To Cook a Continent. In 2010, he received the Right Livelihood Award, better known as the Alternative Nobel Peace Prize.
Welcome to Context TV again, Nimmo Bassey.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's a great pleasure to have you. There's going to be a climate summit in New York City at the UN headquarters at the 23rd of September. German Chancellor Angela Merkel has already made clear that she's not going to attend the meeting, while in Germany CO2 emissions are again rising. In a country that is often considered to be a role model when it comes to effectively cutting emissions. In the US, you see Obama has stopped any attempt to go for a legally binding international climate deal. So where do we stand and where are we heading? What are your comments on that?
Governments cannot be depended upon to fight global warming. They should be able to fight global warming, but because governments are generally at the beck and call of big corporations, governments are not able to do things that people want. So they're doing things that corporations want. So if corporations want to keep on polluting, to keep on amassing profit, governments acquiesce to this. And this is very unfortunate. I think the meetings, I would say that any opportunity to meet is important. But if the meeting is going to produce no result, like Copenhagen did, like Cancun, like South Africa, like Warsaw, Doha, although if that will be the outcome of the meetings, just to talk and do nothing, or to talk and go backwards on commitment and make no commitments, then of course there is a whole lot of waste of time. I think the solution, the spark of hope lies in the people. In the people who are not negotiating, but who have representatives, in quotes, who are negotiating on their behalf. We have to hold our governments accountable and responsible for the harm that we are suffering as people and other species are suffering on planet Earth. We have to hold our governments accountable, and they just have to be forced to take into account the fact that, as they themselves say, business as usual is not an option. They can't just pretend that nothing is happening and keep on permitting the kind of destruction that is going on. It's really very unfortunate that after it's been very clear that the climate is getting to a tipping point, that we're going to have runaway global warming, the governments are not serious about taking real action. I mean, it's very shocking that when the world was thinking that Germany has gone renewable, gone green, then emissions should be rising again. This is why energy efficiency never really at the end of the day cut down emissions, because people get more efficient and then they use more, they consume more rather than interesting. That's why, again, degrowth is important. The concept of degrowth, especially for Europe, is critical, and that would not be only to use statistics to say where we are degrowing, just like GDP is a mythical set of statistics to fool people to think that their economies are growing. If governments resort to using statistics to prove they are growing without actually slowing down and cutting down on consumption, then that would not help us either. We need real action.
There will also be a People's Climate March in New York City before the summit on the 21st of September, which could mark the largest rally for climate action ever. Talk about the climate movement. What are they aiming for? What are their strategies?
To me, the most exciting possibility from the call for global march would be marches in different cities and villages in the world, not marching just in New York City. It's okay to march in New York, but the real action must be where the people are. They have to identify the climate crime scenes and locations that we need to protest against. For example, in Nigeria, we should be marching to the oil fields and saying, Shell, ExxonMobil, Chevron, your climate crimes are enough, you have to put a stop to it. We don't have to go far away. If you go to New York and march there, then you come back home, then you would have marched, of course. Perhaps the heads of states who are gathered in New York may hear the outcome of the march if they are tired of hearing themselves, because they're going basically to hear themselves. Would they hear what is going on the street? So I think symbolically that is good. And if they push concepts and demands as captured in 2010 at the People's Summit People's Summit on Global Warming that was held in Cochabamba in Bolivia, and look at the demands in the Universal Declaration for the Rights of Mother Earth, for example, demanding for climate debt to be paid to the Global South, and also for a reduction in the expenditure on military hardware and war. If they make such demands, then that may be useful. And I think they should make those kind of demands, because those should be the key demands in the climate justice movement. Too much resources are being spent on destructive activities. Extraction itself is destructive, and then the resource from extraction is being used to wage wars and violence around the world. And of course, everybody finds it convenient to ignore the climate debt, but this is a historical debt that cannot be ignored. It has to be paid.